builder. In the same line, approval process is also an automated process, right? That automate Salesforce record are approved in your org, right? So approval process is a combination of steps for a record to be approved or rejected either by the user or maybe your public groups, right? We can take an example where when an employee apply for a leave, right? In that particular scenario, if you are taking leave for 1 or 2 days, right? In that particular scenario, there is no need to take a approval. Now, in the scenario where you are taking leave in a specific situation, like if you are taking leave for more than 5 days, or maybe if you are taking leave in the middle of the project, that is very much important. In that particular scenario, we require approval of the manager, right? So how to implement that approval process in Salesforce, right? So an approval process also is specific uh, to a particular scenario, right? So here is a list of section to configure when you want to use approval process, right? So first of all, when we defining a approval process, right? In that particular scenario, you have to utilize some information. That means you have to work. Like if you want to send emails, then all the email templates is already with you. That means you need to first email template for specification, right? When you start an approval process, then when a specific condition is submitted for approval, right? So what is the initial action, right? Suppose if you are submitting your leave application, right? When the leave application is submitted, then you get a notification about your leave is submitted successfully. So that's the initial submission action, right? Similarly, if you get approval, right? So you get a notification that your action and approved successfully. If maybe some rejection, you get a notification for that. Your action is rejected, and that is the cause. And we can also use recall action. Like if you want to cancel leave, then you can also do that, right? So the action that you can in approval process. So so whatever you are.
Hello, sorry guys. I think sir have some internet issue. We are going to connect again. Just wait for 5 minutes.
Okay, so before creating a approval process, the planning is required. Planning means when you want to perform approval process, like in the current scenario that we are going to implement, uh, our requirement is if number of days that you apply for leave is greater than 3, right? Then in that particular scenario, we require a approval of the manager, right? Second, planning the template that you are going to use, right? Or maybe a situation when you are sending your application for approval. In that particular scenario, maybe you want record status is to be changed. Like we can create a field with the name of status. So whenever we submit our application, the current status should be pending, right? When it is approved, then status should be change to approve. If your leave is cancelled, then the status should be changed to rejected or cancel. Or maybe if you want to recall your application, then it should be so depending your call, and you can also send messages, right? So that is known as planning. Planning is also an object that you are working on. So when you start your so setup in Okay, so now we are able to understand what is planning. Planning means the object that you are that you want to work on. In the current scenario, suppose whenever an employee send their leave application, so the data that is related to leave application, maybe we are storing in a PTO object. So that particular PTO object is actually main object that we are using to work on, right? And we also need to create email template that is required to work with, right? Now we start a approval process. So first we need to select the object that we want to work on, right? So in our scenario, we are going to use PTO object. Basically, that particular object is used to submit your applications, right? So when you start your approval process, so in this particular process, we need to follow certain step. So we need to select create new approval process, the jump start wizard. Basically, this jump start wizard help you to complete your process to configure your things. So create a new approval process. When you click on jump start wizard, the jump wizard help you to create a simple approval process by making some decision, right? Decision means what you want to perform over there. Like in our case, when we submit our application, so the status of the application should be changed to pending, right? If your application is approved, then status should be changed to approved. If cancelled, then it is changed to rejected. And if you cancel your application or recall your application, then it should be changed to recall, right? So when you start, first you need to specify a unique name for your approval process. After that, for each specific step, the step are when you submit your application, that means the initial one, what you want to do. The second step, if it is approved, then what you want to do. If it is rejected, then what step we need to follow. So for each step, you need to configure it. So in our case, we need to change the status of the application. In initial submission, we need to change the status as pending. When it is approved, so status change to approve. If it is rejected, so we need to change the status as rejected, right? We can also send emails, right? So in other words, we can say for each step you can perform multiple action, right? The multiple action means we want to send mail as well as we want to change the status of the application on record, right? So what we need to do, we need to add one more task under the step. This your task can be your sending email. So if you want to send email so before sending email you need to first create a template for that. So template can be created as we done in a workflow rule, right? Right. The in approval action, what we can do, we can create a task, we can send email alerts, we can also update email fields, and we can also send outbound messages. So we just taken an example how to perform this particular thing. So in Salesforce, we have one object that is a custom object that can be used to submit leave application. So in this particular object, we have fields like leave start date, leave end date, and we have one formula field with the name of total number of days. Okay, so if number is less than 3, that means leave start date and leave end date have less than 3 days, so there is no requirement of approval. If it is more than 3, then we need to submit our application for approval, right? So just click on new, you can see the fields. So first we need to select the leave start date, leave end date, reason for the application, the employee who is submitting your application, submit your application, and status. So status is a basically field, and you can see status can be pending, approved, rejected, right? So when we initially submitted our application, the status should be pending, and if it is approved, so it's status changed to approve, otherwise rejected or cancel, right? So we are going to create a approval process. So for creating a approval process, click on setup. Just click on the gear icon and click on setup. Here you need to select search approval process. When you search approval process, it will display in the list, right? So you just need to open approval process. Let's click on this. As in the case of workflow, we can activate and deactivate that particular thing. Similarly, for approval process, we can also activate and deactivate. You can see the screen. The first step, you need to set your object. So in our scenario, object is PTO. Now after that, you need to click here, create new approval process, use jump start wizard. So it should be unique. Okay, so you need to search your approval process, right? For searching approval process, just click on gear icon, and gear icon we have setup. In setup, you need to write approval process. Now, when you click on this approval process, you get this particular screen. Now here, you need to select your object. That means the object that you want to use for approval process, right? After that, you need to click on jump start wizard, right? When you click on jump wizard, it will redirect you to the lesson where you need to follow certain step. Like you need to specify the approval process name, and that should be unique. It is PTO request, and if you want to set any, like if you want to send any email over here, then you can configure. Just click on save. Okay, okay, so just click on approval process. When you select on start wizard, you get this thing. Taking time to load, just wait. specify name. Now, approval assignment email template, right? If you want to set any approval assignment email template, you can assign over here. Now, after that, specify the entry criteria. So you can set the entry criteria and where you want to submit your application. So when you submit your application, then it should be your manager or maybe the admin of the system. So we have this option like that's the submit. Choose the approval manner where you can choose any of the option, right? Set this one automatically assign to the user, right? That means your manager or maybe the CEO who is going to approve. We have this option automatically assigned to queue or automatically assigned to the approval, right? So whatever the policy of your company, you need to choose according to that, right? Here, get the list. Okay, if you are not able to get any user from here, then you need to specify because we are using developer edition, so just use your user. After that, you can specify the entry criteria. So you can use criteria meet or formula evaluated to true. If you want to specify, then you need to leave blank and just click on save. After that, you need to set action for each activity. And the activity are initial submission, for approval, for rejection, or for recall action. Right? Just view approval process detail page. Okay. So you need to specify each of the action like initial submission, right? At initial submission, what do you want to do? We can send email alert, we can send outbound messages and field update. So in our scenario, we are going to update a field. So just click on field update. And for initial submission, we need to set the status field as pending. So that is approval process step one. Approval process step one. And what do you want to do? You want to change the status, right? Just click on next. It should be pending. Right? So because it is a pick list, you can choose status. Just click on save. So at initial submission, we set when the report is submitted. So status should be pending. Now, if you want to send an email also, that means when an employee submit their leave, then he also notification email your application submitted successfully. In that particular scenario, you can also add one more task under initial submission. You're facing some network. Now, so initial submission, one action is perform, where what we are doing, we are just updating our field status into pending, right? Similarly, if you want to add one more action, just click on new, add new, and you can click on email alert, right? So that means you can add multiple action over here, right? Now, if we talk
Hi,
about
Ajay sir.
final approval,
Hello, Ajay sir.
yeah,
Yeah, screen is not shared.
network issue, just each time it is disconnected. Yeah. So now my voice is clear.
Yeah, right now.
Yes. Okay. So for initial submission action, when we submit our request, what we do, we just update status field into pending. Similarly, if you want to send email also, then just click on add new email template, and you can send a email that when an application is submitted, status is changed, as well as employee get a email, right? So if you want to send a email, so first of all, you need to create your email template, and just you need to link that email with this. Okay. So you need to specify the further name, that is approval process tab. You can choose step 2. Okay. You need to specify the description, unique name, and email template that you want to send, and the user for whom you want to send email, right? So you can configure this as we configure in a workflow, right? So that means you can perform multiple action for each step. After that, when you configure your initial step, now we have to configure it for approval case and reject case. Now for approval process, just click on add new field update. You need to specify the step name. That is approval process step 2. And what we want to do, just field update, and field is status. Click on next, and we need to change it approved. Similarly, in the case of reject, we need to set the status as rejected. And finally, that is your recall action. Recall action, that means if you want to cancel your application, then you can change the status as a cancel, right? Just we need to configure this final two step, right? After configure all the steps, we need to activate the approval process, right? That means after activate is now it is ready for use. Now, how the approval process works? When employees submit their application and the total number of days is greater than 3, then in that particular case, we need to manually submit our application for approval, right? So just click for final rejection. Same we are doing field update, and the status should be rejected. So approval and rejected, basically it is depend on the management policy rule, right? Approval process step 3. We want to change the status, and that status is rejected. It should be rejected. And we have last one, that is final recall. In recall, we need to cancel the recall. Similarly, what we need to do, we need to send change the status to for each state. You can perform multiple action. So the final step, we've now performed summation. The second step that we perform final approval and final summation. Similarly, we need to recall action, right? In recall action, what we need to do is we need to cancel our application. Click on this. and change status to cancel. So we cancel the and cancel. So whatever we have in our list, we utilize this. Just approval process. We need to get this as we are in between. Just click on edit. All the pre-created approval process in the list, because we just created it. It's created, so in the list of inactive approval process. So it is not completed yet. So just we need to click on edit, right? And we need to complete it by Okay, just we clear this by performing the last section. Right now, screen is visible. It is not.
Hello guys. Some internet issue at Ajay location. It is disconnecting repeatedly. So we will continue this session on next Saturday. We are because this is not understanding anything due to repeated disconnection. We will reschedule this session on next Saturday. So we will share the next details for the schedule link. Okay. Sorry for the today's interruption and delay in the session. Thank you guys. We are ending the session today.